Okay, in this video we're checking out the RunCam Phoenix. This is another FPV camera, micro-size 19 by 19 mounting pattern here. Pretty interesting camera. Actually I haven't seen too many reviews on this one for some reason. I'm not sure why. It is a bit on the pricey side. In a nutshell, I would say that the image on this is a little bit unique and kind of a mix of, say, like the RunCam Eagle and also the Foxeer Predator, and it has some pretty good color reproduction in the daytime, but in overcast, cloudy conditions it's not quite as vivid. Now of course all these settings are adjustable in the settings, of course, but in the stock settings this is what I found. Obviously you'll see the stock settings flight at the end of the video. And here's the connector that's on the back. It is a 6-pin connector, standard 5 to 36 volts for the voltage input, ground, and video. And then you have VBAT here, the blue wire here, if you want to get voltage on your OSD from the camera. And then you see here it's got TX, RX, and G and M. And you can use the standard joystick here, RunCam joystick, or you can use UART control through Betaflight. Default it comes in the joystick mode, so you can use one of these, but you can switch it over to UART mode and then do camera control in Betaflight if you so desire to do so. The lens here is okay. The field of view is not as wide as I would like it. I think it's a little bit wider than the Eagle. The Eagle, for whatever reason, has got a really narrow field of view in my opinion. It's okay. I would recommend flying this in 4.3 mode. I believe the sensor in here is a 4.3 sensor, not a 16.9 sensor, because it does that cropping thing, and it is NTSC and PAL switchable. Yeah, but in terms of the field of view, I prefer the field of view and the image of the Ratel better than this camera. I think this is definitely better than the Micro Eagle. It has a little bit less shimmer than the Eagle. But it still has that over sharpening effect. You will want to reduce the sharpening on this one as well, just like you would on the Eagle and on the Predator. And it has not quite as bad of a color reproduction as the Predator. It's a little bit better than that, and definitely a little bit better than the Eagle. So of course this is all subjective. Of course you may totally disagree with my opinion on that, but I just wanted to share with you what I thought of the image of this, because this is a kind of a unique camera that I haven't seen quite anything like this yet. But in terms of how it compares to, say, like the Racer Nano or the Eagle, I think the color reproduction is a little bit better. I think it kind of reminds me actually a lot of the Nano 2, and I haven't done that video yet, but I have just recently gotten that, and I've had this actually a lot longer. But if I had to compare the image quality, this actually reminds me a lot of the Nano 2. But of course, you can't adjust any settings on that camera, but you can on this one. So, of course, that one's a 14mm camera. This is a 19mm camera. Okay, so let's take a look at the settings here real quick. You can see it's in joystick control mode from the beginning. You have your OSD on the bottom there, voltage, pilot name, and power on time. And we're just going to use the joystick here to go through the settings. If you want to turn the OSD off, I think you just have to long press the up button for the advanced settings, and here this will show up here. And we can say, like, oh, let's just turn off the pilot name. We'll turn that off, and we'll turn off the timer. We'll leave the voltage on there just for demonstrations purposes. You can see there's the battery voltage. It's a 2S battery. And let's go ahead and bring up the menu. Press the center button, short press that. It brings up your standard menu here. This looks very similar to a Caddx camera menu. Have you seen any Caddx menus? It's very similar looking. You got your automatic exposure, white balance, day-night settings, image enhance, and video settings. I flew everything completely stock, but you can actually go in here and adjust all of these settings. And this camera runs really hot, by the way, so I'm kind of holding it here, because if you hold the camera body, it gets pretty warm. Anyway, so if you go under image enhance here, you can adjust all these things like contrast, sharpness, color gain, digital noise reduction, etc. I'm not going to go through every iteration there, but yeah, all these things you can change. NTSC and PAL switchable, and 4/3/16/9 switchable. You can invert it horizontally and vertically, and you can turn the wide dynamic range on and off. The wide dynamic range on this camera is pretty good actually. Anyway, so I would say that in terms of the settings, I would recommend going in here and adjusting contrast down, say about 10 is what I would recommend, and then the sharpness I would drop that down to about 3. And if you're looking for some settings that I would suggest, try those. I would say on a color gain on a cloudy day, I would raise that because it is a little bit washed out on overcast cloudy days, but on sunny days this value is okay. Okay, so I forgot to give you guys the weight of the camera. I'm sure people are going to be wondering. It's a fairly hefty camera. It's coming in at about almost 9 grams. Okay, so I'll go ahead and show you the stock footage from this camera at the park I normally fly at, and you can compare the footage of this one to all the other cameras in the FPV Camera Review playlist, which is down linked in the description. You can just bring up another browser and bring up any camera you want and do a side-by-side at a similar location at the park for this camera as well as another camera. So if you're wondering how this one compares to, say, the Eagle or the Predator or the Ratel, then just bring up those reviews, and you can just go to the end of the video where the footage is and find this where I'm flying at that same park, maybe under a tree or something, and then you can compare this footage to that footage. That would be the best way, because there's so many cameras, and doing a side-by-side on every possible permutation of a comparison to another camera would be ridiculous amount of videos. So that's why I have done the reviews this way. So if you're wondering, haven't seen these FPV camera reviews before, that's how you would compare this footage to other cameras, and you can make your own decision. It's very subjective as to what people like in terms of the field of view, in terms of image distortion from the lens, etc. Also how it handles light handling changes going from bright areas to shadow areas. So again, check out that playlist down in the description. It's to see other cameras, and that's going to do it. I'm going to show you the footage here for this one. Let me know what you guys think of this camera, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.